Right now, let's bring in moderator of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd, in our Washington bureau. Chuck, break it down for us.
Well, look, I mean, for half of America, that's going to feel like a dystopian speech of some sort of bizarro world speech. But for half of America that they may have been celebrating all along, I think in some ways it's a speech we should come to expect. But there's a few things that I think are worth taking note of. Number one, he's not over this. And he clearly is going to be looking for some sort of revenge or vengeance. He seems to be in that mode. So I am curious what senators like Lamar Alexander, Susan Collins, Marco Rubio, all of whom believe the president did something wrong, some of whom I think Susan Collins has said that she believes he will have learned a lesson from this. I would be curious to think what they think of these remarks and whether they believe this is a president that is ready to, that has learned the lesson perhaps they hope. He may have learned a lesson, but I don't know if it's the lesson they want him to hope. But here's what was important about what he did. He was really flexing his cult of personality muscle, right? This is a Republican Party that is no longer organized around ideas. It is organized around a person, pure and simple. And he was almost doing the conditioning thing. Loyalty will be rewarded. And as you saw, boy, was loyalty rewarded. If you were tough on them, I mean, he singled out people who do not believe the president did something. He singled out people like Mitch McConnell and Lee Stefanik, both of whom believe what the president did was wrong, but have been careful never to pass public judgment and instead been very process-oriented and sort of fought on political grounds. And the fact that he singles them out for praise, it's almost he's conditioning this Republican Party that if you want my support, if you want my praise, when you're with me, look at what I will do for you. So I do think he was sending a message certainly to Republicans that weren't all in with him. You know, he didn't single out Lamar Alexander for helping him sink the vote on witnesses because Lamar Alexander said what he did was inappropriate. He didn't single out some of those senators who helped bring along the skeptics because they were skeptical too. So I do think that was, I mean, when you see that he talked about how he picked primary winners and things like that, this was sending a message to the entire membership of the Republican Party. Any of you try to join Mitt Romney, you gotta be aware of my power over this party right now.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.